Welcome back to Impact on a Tuesday morning. I'm Russell Thomas, and I'm pleased to be joined in the studio today by Luana Busierres. I'm not sure what I'm saying, who is the Executive Director of St. Aidan Society. Thanks for coming in, Luana.
Thanks for having me.
Did I get your last name right? I've
did.
never
Close
actually...
enough.
Busierres? Is that how you would say it?
We say it many different ways, actually.
What is the correct way?
I say Busierres.
Busierres. So there's no S. Busierres.
Right.
Beautiful.
Silent.
Your dad, Jerry, was he the city clerk for many, many years?
Yes.
Lived here a long time.
I have. My mom came, I don't know what year it was, but when she was 2, and both my brother and I were born and raised here. So 50 years for me.
Unbelievable. Oh, you just told everybody your age.
I did.
Brilliant. You were raised here, so so that would have been the 60s. What was Fort McMurray like as far back as you can remember? What was it like?
Well, I tell everybody that I was born and raised in a small town in northern Alberta. It just happens to be this one that we live in now. So certainly back then it was very small town feel. I remember the Blueberry Festival when I was a kid, and we would go out and pick the blueberries and go back to Town Hall, which was around where I think the old Royal Bank building used to be. And then we'd have a pancake breakfast, and the Women's Auxiliary would cook the pancakes, and that's what it was like. It was a small town, probably like any other small town.
So by that time, was the Prairie and Fort McMurray proper connected?
Like waterways, you mean?
Yeah, because there was a time when it was Fort McMurray, the Prairie, and then waterways. They were kind of three separate, connected but not connected.
So much to my father's horror, I don't have all the history good like he does. I know waterways was separate. It was a separate town back then. There was, when I was born, and I think there was like 3,000 people here, and by the time I started school, I think it was 6,000. I was born in 66, so 70, whatever, 72, whatever, 74, whatever it was. There was about 6,000 people. And I remember we became a city, I think it was in the 80s, early 80s, but my history is brutal.
Did people know everybody back in those days?
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody knew everybody, and if you did something wrong, the neighbors called very quickly, so it was hard to get away with anything, for sure. But yeah, everybody knew everybody back then.
What has it been like watching Fort McMurray go from 3,000 to 80, however big we are now?
Yeah, I don't know what we are now. Certainly I've seen a couple booms and busts in Fort McMurray. So what we're going through now is nothing new. If you were born and raised here, have every confidence we'll bounce back like we always do. Back then, I mean, Russell, it was, you helped each other, right, during the down times. And I remember my mom always in the Women's Auxiliary at the church, helping somebody out who was maybe going through a hard time. And you took the turkey over to them and you took sandwiches, and that's what you did. And in many ways, I think that's what people love about Fort McMurray is there is still that sense of community, and there's still that sense of banding together, even though we're a lot bigger. I certainly see it in the Ball community, so I think it still exists. And when you talk to people who aren't from here, one of the things often people say is they love that they feel like everybody's from everywhere else, which is certainly true. There's not a lot of us that are born and raised here, but it does still have in many ways a small town feel.
Went to high school at Comp.
I did.
Did you go away to school when you were done high school?
I did. I went, when I was done high school, I went to, my degree is from the University of Calgary, but I graduated off the Edmonton campus. So the degree was in Calgary. Prior to that, I got my diploma in social work from Red Deer College, and then got my degree in social work from University of Calgary.
So you've been in the social work field your whole life then?
27, 28 years, a very long time. Yeah, almost 30 actually.
Was it a calling, or how did you end up choosing that as a life path?
It's bizarre. I kind of always knew that I wanted to do it. I didn't know what it was called for a long time. Initially, I wanted to be a marine biologist. And then I found out that I had to go in the ocean, and that freaked me out. So that was the end of that. So then I wanted to be a veterinarian, and then I found out I had to put animals to sleep. So that was the end of that. And then it was social work, and it was just kind of always social work from about grade 10 on. I don't know why. I think it probably has to do with watching my grandparents and my parents just helping others, and it just is in my DNA, I guess.
I know you spent a lot of time working in the foster field,
right?
Foster family. But what were you doing originally? Like, how did your career arc go along?
I started as a summer student at the Youth Assessment Center. Back, it's closed now, but so the Youth Assessment Center had a Solicitor General component where it had some young offenders, instead of them being shipped to Edmonton, if they were deemed to be kids that were probably going to be low maintenance in terms of behavioral issues, they would have a couple beds at the YAC. But the bulk of it was open, like, to child welfare kids. So parent-teen conflicts, children that were having struggles at home. So that's where I started with a couple summers. And then when I graduated, I went back there and worked as a frontline worker there, and then started their outreach program, and then went to the city and worked in their intervention program, which was outreach, was pregnant. And so after my maternity leave, I went to work at probation for a while, and that was just not at all for me. Then I went to child welfare, where I spent about a decade doing child welfare investigations, and then decided to stay home for a couple years after I had my second son, and got literally browbeat by St. Aidan's to come work for them and set up their foster care program, take it over, and make some changes to it. And so I went there, and I've been there ever since. Wow. Yeah.
St. Aidan's Society is the official name, and I know we've talked about the understanding of what St. Aidan's is. I think you and your team have done a great job of elevating the understanding of that, but it's been a struggle.
It has.
Because St. Aidan's is somewhat connected to the St. Aidan's Church. So talk about what St. Aidan's Society is and how it came to being and what its purpose was, perhaps, and what its purpose is today.
So St. Aidan's was formed in 1973, and it was formed after Judge Harry Amy, who sat on the bench in provincial court, watched all these kids having to head down the highway who needed foster care or out-of-home placements, and we had nothing in Fort McMurray. So with that and watching that, he had a vision to start what would eventually become a group home, but it was a staffed home. And so he pulled together other members of the church and talked to them about his vision and got them motivated. They got the land for the group home, what's now was the group home, built the group home. So that's the connection with the church. So we're often confused as a religious organization, which we're not, but simply because of our roots. So it started out with parented home, they used to call them back then. And then St. Aidan's expanded to foster care and therapeutic home visitation, and did group care and semi-independent living and a whole array of services, all relating to children's services. In about late 2013 and 2014, I went to the board. I have a very dear friend who works at the municipality, Steve Andrej, who had been working with seniors. And I had worked with Steve for years and years when he worked at St. Aidan's and I worked at the YAC and I worked at child welfare. And he started talking to me about all the struggles getting services for seniors in town. And I was just really ready personally to make a shift away from children's services. And I went to the board and basically said, like, this is what's going on in our community. Here's the need. Our vision is about making an impact on our community and its people, and we can do that differently. And how did they feel about it? They were incredibly supportive and said, go, see what you can do. And off I went. And here we are today. In 2015, April 1, 2015, we started providing services to seniors.
Wow. We're going to take a break in a second here. I think one of the things we often joke about at Fort McMurray is that people talk about, well, how many seniors do you have in Fort McMurray? And we'll say, well, we've got about half a dozen, maybe. But really, we have a lot of seniors.
We do.
And unfortunately, some of them fall between the cracks for various reasons. And we are going to talk more about what is the real situation with seniors in Fort McMurray and perhaps some of the challenges that some of them had during the fire event of 2016. My guest this morning is Luana Busierres, who is the Executive Director of St. Aidan's Society, and we'll be be back with more of Impact right after this. Welcome back. My guest is Luana Busierres, Executive Director of St. Aidan Society, a person who was born in Fort McMurray. In fact, her mom came here when she was 2. I can't even begin to do the math on that. I'm so glad that you're here to talk about the work of St. Aidan Society. You talked about the significant mission shift that you undertook in 2014 to move in the world of providing services and supports for seniors. How has that been? How does it feel to take an organization and completely try something new?
It feels incredible. It is probably the most rewarding professional undertaking I've ever been involved with. To have the trust and the faith in the board, to be able to pick a team that shares this vision is just nothing short of completely fulfilling. It's been absolutely wonderful. Best decision I ever made.
We had a horrific event in 2016, and I know that you and your family were a part of it just like the rest of us. And personally, everybody sort of had to figure out what was happening. But very quickly, you and your team shifted to trying to assess how seniors were doing. And in fact, you said off the air that very quickly they were reaching out to you guys.
Right.
What were you hearing?
What we were hearing initially was just, do you know where so-and-so is? Have you heard from my aunt? One lady as far away as Ohio reached out to me on social media and said, do you know my aunt? And I'm like, yes, I do. And she said, do you know where she is? And I'm like, I don't, but I'll find out. And so that just became it. Our mission, we're a small team. We were in 3 different provinces, our team, when we initially evacuated, but remotely managed to get boots on the ground and try to figure out where people were. Worked very closely with Golden Years, who has a big reach to a large number of the seniors. And with them, just tried to find out where as many of the seniors were that we knew of and to make sure that they were okay. And we were hearing just they're confused, they're split up, they're worried. Where is so-and-so? Where's the person they may have lived with at Rotary House? And so just really trying to offer some small bit of comfort to people who were displaced like the rest of us and let them know their world was okay.
We've talked anecdotally about what would have happened if we had to go through the same experience without our cell phones. Many seniors may not be as technically plugged in as the rest of us. Was that something that you were hearing? And if so, how do you connect with people if they didn't have a cell phone? Like, how did you go about finding people?
Just a lot of phone calls. I joke about it, but it's true. There was one lady who evacuated with her cat and would not go anywhere that she couldn't take her cat. And so she ended up in a residence in Grant MacEwan, which is not ideal for a senior and certainly not ideal for a senior with some medical challenges. I'm sure we called every resource in the province that provides services to seniors for housing to see if they would take a senior with a cat. And it was no. So for us, we could call around for seniors who aren't plugged in, and many of them aren't. It was absolutely a challenge, right from the Notley gift cards to getting your Red Cross dollars when you don't have access to a computer or you don't use the computer. And that's how people got their Red Cross money, was e-transfer. And many seniors aren't comfortable with online banking. So there was just a host of challenges.
So you and Pam and Heather, 3 different provinces, you were actually working very quickly wherever you happened to be, however you could do it.
We were. Sandy was also in Alberta.
Sandy, yeah.
Sandy was in Flatbush, which most people don't know is a small community.
Isn't that in New York?
No, it's right by Westlock, actually, about a half an hour out of Westlock. So she was close by. Pam ended up coming back to Alberta within a couple weeks. So we'd meet in Edmonton regularly, and Heather was in BC, reaching out as she could there. So we just mobilized and said, what can we do? What do we need need to do. And really it became more responding to the need versus any kind of strategic thinking on our part. I mean, I would like to say, yes, we put our heads together and said, this is what we need to do, let's do it. But it was responding to the overwhelming need and getting resources to seniors. I
know you reached out to me to connect with Diane at some point early on in the crisis, asking about taking some United Way dollars to help pay people, because that became a big issue for a lot of organizations right away. How are we going to pay people?
Yeah. Actually, when I reached out, that part of it, Russell, was already taken care of. Within a week of evacuation, we had all agencies funded by United Way, had all gotten a letter from your board of directors saying, don't worry, this needs to be the least of your worries right now, and here's what we can do to help you, and here's where we are. I can't say enough about the support we got from United Way right off the start. I was in the United Way office in Edmonton meeting with lots of members of your team within a couple weeks of that. So it was tremendous support that we got from United Way, and without that, I don't know what my team would look like today.
Yeah, because they were concerned about their future as well.
For sure, yeah.
Do you have a sense of how many seniors do we really have in Fort McMurray? Well,
we know from the census how many there are, and it really depends what you consider a senior. So we can go anywhere from 2,000 to kind of 10,000, depending on the age group that you look at. We're mostly concerned with the seniors that are isolated, the ones that we don't know about. We know the group who goes to Golden Years, and we know how active they are, and we know the people that go to the Legion, and we can reach out to them easy enough. It's the ones that are sitting at home that aren't connected to resources that we really try to reach to make sure that they're okay and having access to resources, because most of them don't understand the resources that are in town. And navigating any system is challenging. And when you get into different levels of government, when it's your old age security and your pension and senior benefits and housing, it becomes a lot more challenging and overwhelming. And so we want to be there to help them navigate those systems as well.
You spoke off the air, and I'm going to use fake names, John and Mary. John used to work at the plant for years and years, went away at retirement, but decided to come back, didn't like the pace of life wherever they were at. And they're here, but you, a longtime resident who worked closely with seniors, had no idea that they were even here.
Right.
I wonder how often that could be the case or would be the case.
And that's our worry, right? That's exactly what we're worried about, is those people we don't know about, those ones that are unsupported in their homes. And we know that a hallmark feature of elder abuse, which is what some of what we deal with, is isolation. And so we absolutely need to reach those people. And it's shocking to me how many people have no access to resources and don't know what's out there and are alone. And that's just not the way it should be.
Do we as a community talk enough about seniors?
No, not at all. We don't. We were just having this conversation actually last week and over the weekend, a number of us on the team, about it's not part of our thinking that nobody thinks about going into a business and the uneven terrain to get into the business, how difficult that is. There's no benches in stores. Senior-friendly and age-friendly communities have a bench so a senior can sit down in one of the grocery stores and take a break. So we don't, and that's something that we try to do through our advocacy and our work in the community as we work on community development issues, is to let that be a thought for people as it relates to that, just like it is for people with mobility issues that are disabled.
I'm thinking of the connection with Stephanie Myrick and the work that she does in terms of accessibility.
Yeah, that's exactly. And we partner with Stephanie on the inclusion committee and different things as well. We have shared outcomes that we have. So absolutely we band together, and Heather sits with her on a couple different committees as well.
Yeah, Stephanie's with Spinal Cord Injury Alberta.
Right.
I always want to go back to the old name. My guest this morning is Luana Busierres from St. Aidan Society. She's the executive director, also very involved in Slow Pitch here in Fort McMurray, a longtime resident. We're going to come back with more of Impact, a collaboration of the United Way, Fuse Social, and our friends right here at KAOS 91.1. And welcome back. Guest this morning is Luana Busierres, who is from St. Aidan's Society. How's your family doing, by the way, in this post-fire phase of our recovery?
We're doing all right. My dad, who's 81, needs his world to be back to normal. So he walked in immediately following the fire and announced that everything was perfectly fine in his house in spite of every piece of siding being melted. But he is fine if you ask him. So I probably shouldn't say this on air, but when he goes away to Phoenix or whatever, we do little bits of pieces in the house that he doesn't know about. But he's good. My brother, of course, lost his house. And like, bless him, like right after he dragged my sister-in-law out looking at house plans so they could get a hole in the ground right away. And so they should be moving in within a month. So we're doing the best we can, you know.
And you had a traumatic, you thought your house was gone for a period of time shortly after.
Yeah, I got videos from people showing our crescent. Well, now I know it was just covered in smoke, but it looked like it was gone. So yeah, for a day we thought all of us had lost our house because we live like all beside each other. So.
Yeah, you were the one little area in downtown that got hit with a piece of ash or ember. You work with us at the Red Pole Center.
I do.
What has that been like for St. Aidan Society, working with and amongst 15, 16 other organizations?
It's been wonderful for us. So we came from like a small kind of one room that we all shared, and so we primarily would try to get stuff done from home, but the files at work. So for us, the physical environment is incredible. It's a gift. But the beauty of the Red Pole Center, which I think was the vision all along, Russell, is the collaboration that occurs. So we've put out, we didn't put out, but we had produced an elder abuse awareness video, and the Arts Council helped us with that. I'm a ball player. It would have never occurred to me to go to the Arts Council to partner on anything. We have a partnership with Val O'Leary and the CISM team right now, funded through Red Cross, and we work closely with Stephanie, and we work closely with the Alzheimer's Society, and those two girls help. And we're putting on right now a caregiver support group that we're part of with a number of other people. So the collaborations are the biggest gift. And I mean, from a funding perspective, there's no better financial strategy than collaborating with people. It saves money, but most importantly, it coordinates and services for people you're there to serve.
That video is stunning.
They did an amazing job.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best that I've seen.
Yeah,
that
really was
powerful.
Mike Mankowski's crew, and they did an amazing job, and the seniors that we got were just perfect.
You talked before a little bit about what the United Way means to you, but I'm interested to, we've been playing with this idea of how do we express, communicate, celebrate impact, true impact of funding that an organization gets from the United Way. So I'm wondering if you were to finish the sentence, because of United Way, ... what would you say?
I would say because of United Way, we're able to meet the needs of seniors in the community. It's that simple. Without them, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. They are our major funder. We certainly get some funding from the RMWB, and we get some funding from the provincial government, but United Way funds probably 85% of what we do, and without them, we wouldn't be doing what we do. It's that simple.
And seniors would be left behind.
They would be.
Yeah. You work with a great team. You have Sandy, Pam, and Heather, and a new person that will come on shortly in March. They might be listening. What would you say to those amazing ladies about what they mean to you and your organization, the work that they do?
They mean everything to me professionally, and they're also my friends, right? But they are the reason that we achieve the outcomes that we achieve. And I get many accolades as the executive director. That's the way it is in this world. You're seen as the one who does all these great things. And the truth of the matter is I'm nothing without those girls. They are the reason that we achieve what we achieve. And there is no stronger group of women in my mind. I'd match my team with anybody's. I think I have the strongest team in the nonprofit world. They get team better than anybody else. And Sandy, who doesn't even work with seniors, no part of her job involves seniors, but you see Sandy at every event, and you will see her helping out at the Golden Years Society, and you saw her, for some people, a couple weeks ago at the MME when St. Aidan's was doing an awareness thing, and there she was doing some age-friendly awareness with people, and that's not even part of her job. So that's the team I'm blessed to call a team.
I sense that this move to working with seniors has been very fulfilling for you personally. What is the greatest joy of being able to work with seniors?
Oh, there's many. Just really making a difference to somebody who, so I get emotional, is at the end of their life and not feeling important. To be able to bring some joy to somebody who's isolated, to be able to help somebody who feels less than and insignificant is unlike anything I've experienced.
That's perfectly said. We'll end it there.
Okay.
Luana, thank you very much for coming in. And thank you for all the work that you're doing caring for our seniors, because they are a treasure.
They are.
You've been listening to Luana Busierres, the Executive Director of St. Aidan's Society, focusing on caring for seniors in our region. They do an awesome job, and this has been Impact, a collaboration of the United Way, our friends at Fuse Social, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray, brand new on board, and our friends right here at KAOS 91.1.